when we're girls, we always want this fairy tale thing. We want the Disney movie. You know, you want Prince Charming to come in. Again, we're tall, dark, handsome, check, check, check.
Yeah.
And then you get married. And that's all they ever teach us in Disney. But then you watch the really good rom-coms and you're like, oh, I married my best friend. And I think when girls hear that hits us harder than the fairy tale endings because you're like, man, I want to marry my best friend. You can't do that if you are just having immediate like dating expectations for somebody. But like Tammy was saying before, when you're trying to get to know one another or you're meeting each other on like an even playing ground, you're going to develop a friendship that then can grow into something. And then you do have the ability to maybe marry your best friend someday.
Yeah. And they can't become your best friend if in the first 10 or 15 minutes you decide that they're not worth your time because they did something silly, like, you know, dropped something on their plate or spilled their plate or sneezed, whatever. aggravating thing, like you said, a little quirk that they did. Gosh, we're all quirky. It's a beautiful chaos, this roller coaster ride. The ups, the downs are spinning all around inside. It's a beautiful chaos. Sometimes I love, sometimes I hate. Have to pause, renegotiate, but with gratitude I appreciate this beautiful chaos. Hello everyone, welcome to Beautiful Chaos. I'm Tammy Ramsey.
And I'm Staci Miller.
And today's episode is Dating Without Pressure. I don't know.
We haven't dated in a long time. So
We really haven't. So our expertise on this is zero. But, you know, we've talked to people, we've researched some things.
Well, and we've just been around the block a couple of times. And so, like, we've seen what ourselves have gone through, what our friends have gone through. But also, I think where we have successful relationships and successful marriages now, hopefully we can give everyone some tips. And if not, maybe we can just entertain you with what we have to say today.
You might get a big kick out of it.
Yeah.
So I was talking to this college gal that we met through a friend, and she's been coming out and riding our horses every now and again. And I invite her in for dinner because, you know, she's a starving college student. So we're having dinner, and she's talking about, well, do you have anyone you know that you could introduce me to, because I'm having a really hard time meeting people. And I said, what have you been doing to meet people? And she's like, well, I've been on a dating app and I've just not been having a good time with it. And so we didn't really talk about the dating app, but I do know there's a few people I've talked to with younger kids in high school even that are using the dating app. I scared me. Yeah. It was a senior in high school, but still scary. But anyway, she told me, she's like, dating just feels exhausting.
I think that dating apps are really different today. And I think there's a lot of different types of apps that you can find out there. And I think that you have to find the one that also meets your expectations, because we're going to talk a lot about expectations today. So I think you need to pick the app that's going to meet your expectations also. But we're also going to talk about other ways that you can meet people without a dating app also.
Right. Because that's kind of important. And like she said, we're going to talk about expectations. And that's one of the things that this college gal told me, was that on this date, after meeting on an app and checking the boxes, I guess, she said that he didn't meet her expectations. And she was talking about, different things. And I was like, well, did he know your expectations? And then she was just talking about, well, and some of them weren't good first impressions. You just knew right off the bat. And I'm thinking about how nerve-wracking. Could you imagine going on a date right now?
Right. No.
No,
thank you.
No. I mean, I'm good with people, but if I one-on-one'd it, even over coffee with a stranger, I mean,
it feels a lot like a test in that sense, when it's just one-on-one and you're asking each other questions. And I think that makes it a lot harder to answer. The other thing with expectations on a first date initially is that they don't know what their expectations that you have for them are either. I mean, yeah, if your expectations are tall, dark, and handsome, and they walk in and they're none of those things, then they're not going to meet your expectations. But if it's all things that, most of your expectations, I think, should be able to be met prior to the first date if you're looking for them in a dating app. Right. We're looking at certain looks, maybe that they have a job, a vehicle, that they enjoy, maybe some of the same hobbies as you. Those are the only boxes that really need to be checked, I think, prior to a first encounter. But
yeah. No, I agree. And I think that it should be more about getting to know a person and not really like, oh, I want to meet you to date you. How about I just want to meet you and find out more about you?
Right.
And then because tall, dark, and handsome, you can be that to someone that absolutely has fallen in love with you. You might be not Abraham Lincoln. Hey, Mary Todd loved Abraham Lincoln. He is the ugliest man I've ever seen.
Not attractive.
He's not attractive, but she loved him.
Right.
So for every person, there's a person. And what our thought is of what that person should look like, for one, ditch that because it's always unexpected.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
You didn't expect to be.
No, and I think that you really fall in love with somebody's personality.
Yes.
But I think the other thing we need to remember in this entire conversation is that you want them to fall in love with your personality.
Yes.
We are bringing to the table all of our strengths, but also all of our weaknesses that we expect them to accept. And so we also need to know that they're going to bring weaknesses to the table as well, and know that some of those are going to be we have to be willing to accept. So when you get that first, like, oh, I don't like that he likes that music, or I don't like that he quotes movies too much. It's just something, we have the silly things that happen on a first date where we kind of make those quick initial judgments. I think those are the ones you immediately look past because, one, we're nervous on those first dates. And so sometimes not everything comes out the way that we intend them to. But also, that's not a whole picture of somebody. And they may have 100 other strengths that are going to drown out their one like weird quirk that you were kind of rubbed the wrong way for. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does.
And I think the other thing is that I think all listeners need to sort of get on the page with us too, is that we're not just talking about dating. Any of these ideas and thoughts can also be implied with how you're creating your friendships.
Yes.
I think that one thing that when we're girls, we always want this fairy tale thing. We want the Disney movie. You want Prince Charming to come in. Again, we're tall, dark, handsome, check, check, check.
Yeah.
And then you get married. And that's all they ever teach us in Disney. But then you watch the really good rom-coms and you're like, oh, I married my best friend. And I think when girls hear that hits us harder than the fairy tale endings, because you're like, man, I want to marry my best friend. You can't do that if you are just having immediate like dating expectations for somebody. But like Tammy was saying before, when you're trying to get to know one another or you're meeting each other on like an even playing ground, you're going to develop a friendship that then can grow into something. And then you do have the ability to maybe marry your best friend someday.
Yeah. And they can't become your best friend if in the first 10 or 15 minutes you decide that they're not worth your time because they did something silly, like, dropped something on their plate or spilled their plate or sneezed, whatever. Aggravating thing, like you said, a little quirk that they did. Gosh, we're all quirky. And we all have something that's not perfect about us.
Yes.
And I think you just have to pick the person that least irritates you a lot of the times. Once you say you become in the friendship and you're best friends and you have all these things in common and you're doing all these things, but some things irritate you. Well, guess what? Anybody you're going to be with, something is going to irritate you about them. Even if they were just like you, that would even be more irritating to you, even though you think that would be the perfect match for you. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. But back to the expectations, because that works in dating and in marriage, in all relationships, like you said. You need to speak with the person and let them know up front what expectations you have.
And they have to be realistic expectations. Yeah. So I think we can compare dating and marriage in this example, which in dating, you're not going to necessarily say to somebody like, I expect you to make this amount of money and I expect that you drive this kind of car, right? Those are outlandish expectations. But maybe you can, after a couple of dates and you're comfortable, because again, we're assuming that we already have something in common that got us to that first date. So then the expectations can be, you know, hey, I really want us to keep communicating every day, but I don't want to be the first to text every day. So I want to see that you have that same interest or whatever those expectations end up being. Right. We, meaning anybody in the relationship, can't sit back and say, well, I want him to text first every day. If he doesn't know that's an expectation that you have, because that other person may be sitting there going, well, why didn't so-and-so text me today? They usually text me first every day and they didn't today. They must be mad at me. You know, so no one's communicating to understand the differences. In marriage, it becomes even more important because a lot of those walls have been broken down. So instead of having these invisible expectations of, well, I thought he was going to do the dishes today. Didn't he see the dishes need to be done? No, he didn't. I promise they don't see the dishes the way we see the dishes, but we also don't see stuff in the garage the way they see it, or that the lawn needs picked up and things like that. I don't see those things at all. Yeah. So we have to understand that if the expectation is, hey, I need you to like do those dishes once in a while, they need to understand that that's being expected, or who does the laundry, or how you even want chores divvied up in the house. I mean, I wouldn't recommend having a chore chart and giving each other stickers, but just a conversation that is, you know, hey, when I grew up, the guy did the laundry and the dishes and took out the garbage. And then you can say, okay, well, I really like doing the laundry, so I'll do the laundry if you'll do the dishes and the garbage, and then I like to dust and vacuum, whatever. But you communicate with each other so that you can harmoniously live without those problems, because the last thing you need in a long marriage is, and the rest of your life, is fighting over the chores all the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's much bigger things in life to deal with.
Way bigger things, for sure. So I love this. This is expectations are silent rules, and silent rules set people up to fail. Yeah. So same with since we're talking about first dates, that can also go with, maybe you're the woman and you go in and you expect that he's going to buy the dinner because you're old school and you think just the man should buy the dinner. But he thinks that it should be Dutch because it's a meeting. He didn't think it was a date. Yeah. It was just a meeting to have dinner, like not a big, you know, there's different ways to look at things. So that's another thing. You've got to be a good negotiator. Prior to your date, you go in and say, all right, well, here's what my expectations are. You know, I was thinking that you invited me, so therefore you're paying. Can I just confirm that? Or do I need to be prepared to pay half? So that you have that discussion and you have that in your mind as to what's going to happen. So things to look at in the big picture of this whole, you know, majority of people saying, nope, I'm out of here after 5 or 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes. Like, you can't know anybody in 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, sure, if they came in, like, and they haven't showered in 2 weeks and, yeah, they're carrying a homeless sign and that's not your jam.
A legitimate red flag right off the bat. Yeah, run from that, sis. But if we're just talking about little nuances to people, let's give them a break, give them a little bit of rope.
Like, maybe he clears his throat. When he's talking, he's just constantly clearing his throat. And that might be like, oh, no, I can't even handle that. But guess what? He's probably clearing his throat because...
He's super nervous.
Super nervous.
Yep, that's a very nervous tick.
So if I'm nervous, you might see it as...
Anxious? Oh, uninterested.
If I'm quiet, you might see it as...
boring, except I think I want to talk about that one.
Okay.
Because my husband is very quiet.
Yes, and we're both married to quiet men.
Yeah, your husband is very quiet. And I think that we have to remember, quiet can appear boring, but quiet is also observant. Quiet is also really good listeners. Because, I mean, it can also not be a great listener, but luckily in my case, my husband's a very good listener. But he'll stay quiet even after because I do all the talking in our relationship. And so I yap, yap, yap. And then he kind of chills with the information for a minute and he comes back with like something really profound. And if in the beginning of our dating, I would have taken those moments of like quiet and been like, this guy doesn't listen to me, doesn't pay attention to me, he never has anything good to say, and just dipped, I never would have got the really good, like solid, helpful information that he would give me. Like, I was thinking about what you said earlier and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that was really profound. So quiet can be observant and it can be really good listener. So we have to keep
very wise.
Keep our options
there can be
open
a lot of wisdom with those people.
Yeah.
The ones we're married to anyways. Talking less may mean they're shy.
Yeah.
Or, maybe they're just disengaged. Like maybe right before they walked in, they got an email saying that they have a paper that's due in an hour and they don't want to share that with you because they don't want you to think that there's some jerk that's going to blow you off or something or whatever. So you got to give people grace sometimes. And we all act different when we're stressed or anxious. Like, oh, that's like the personality thing. We could get into personality color code or understanding the Enneagram because all of our personalities go to a totally different personality type when we're under stress. And we behave in ways that are not normal for us. How stressful is a first meeting? Yeah. It's very stressful. So they're not going to be totally themselves.
And they can be fun. I mean, they're, but you also have to keep your eyes open, because even if it's like the best first date of your life, make sure you didn't miss any red flags either. Well, be observant of what's really being said, that they're not just checking every box because they are trying to say the right thing.
Are,
yeah,
because of you put them all online. Well, some of them, I don't know. So, and I loved this, thinking about this too, is like when I met Kevin the first time, I wanted nothing to do with him, right? I was judging that book by its cover because he looked like the redneck that I didn't want to be around. And then come to find out he's a real cowboy.
Yeah.
So, we can be wrong. So just like a worn book, when you open it up, you're looking at the worn out book and you're going, ooh, you look at those ragged pages. Right. Oh, there's a tear. The binding's all broken. Gosh, it's probably missing pages. So I might get to the end and there's not an ending. I'm going to be really disappointed. But then you might open the book and start looking through it and go, wow, oh, there's more to this book than I thought.
Right.
And look, it does have the very last page, has everything in it that I want. And so that's kind of the way I think people are.
Yeah.
We're never what our exterior or the surface layer leads us to believe.
Right.
There's always a deeper layer, and you're not going to find that in 10 to 15 minutes. Or even probably on a first date. You might get some connections. You might have great conversation and have a good time. But you need to keep revisiting. So some things to take off the pressure of a first date, or any date really, is maybe don't even call it a date. Call it, let's hang out.
Yeah.
I think most of the kids now don't say date. They say hang out.
I mean, I think it just depends on how you do it. But I think that getting together in a different environment than the pressure of what a date would look like. You're not dressed up at dinner, uncomfortable, bad shoes, bad lighting, right? But I'm going to equate it to a friendship. This is an unlikely friendship when you write it down on a piece of paper, right? But we met through theater because we both had a love and an interest in theater. And then I think I'm a loud and talkative person. I'm nothing compared to this one, right? So
true that.
So I'm, around her, and she's magnetic and charismatic, but at the same time I'm like,
she's a lot.
I don't know if this is anything, but she wanted my help on a play after we were done with the one that we were in. And I was like, sure. I mean, I'm already here every night. I might as well just stay being here every night. And so through our continued relationship of working together and learning how each other works, we learned that we could be really good friends. But also we had to do kind of all of the things that happen in a normal marriage too, of like knockdown dragouts and sit down and be honest with each other and be like, you hurt my feelings because you said this and I didn't mean to say that, I meant to say this. And and never in a million years would I have done music in the park if she wouldn't have already had me wrapped into things and got me out of my shell, and now we do all these things together, right? So this is why I think it's so important to also equate these things into the same way you do friendships. So if you're single and you're trying to figure out how to date someone, think of how you met your best friends or your close friends or the people that you spend the most of your time with, because you didn't meet them on a dating app and go to dinner with them one night and expect the world from them. You met them at the theater. You met them at church. You met them
in class.
Yeah, you met them somewhere where you already have a little block of your foundation to build from, whether it's church, work, you have something already in common. And so I think that I'm going in the right direction, and that we should look for a different environment to date in. So you both like golfing, go mini golfing and have your date there. I'd also highly recommend, if it's something that like a bigger group would be interested in, like mini golfing or going to an escape room or something like that, bring a couple of your friends and a couple of their friends, because the way his friends treat him is more telling of his personality, and the way your friends treat you really helps each other see, right? Because if you and I were out with a group of friends, they're going to see that I respect you and that you respect me, and that how I play off of your personality, how you play off of mine, and they're going to learn more about you the way I talk to you, and vice versa. So when you're in a group, you really can benefit a lot from, if you're out there with his friends and they're like, hey, be careful, you're the fifth one this week and the rest ran away. Maybe you should take that as a big giant red flag. But if they're constantly talking him up and talking about what a great guy he is, we're so glad that you're here, we have something to go from. And we both like putt-putt, so here we go. We have something to do to hang out and not have that pressure that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many fun things that you could do in a group setting so that it is less pressure. And you mentioned a bunch of them.
I think it's also important to know yourself. Yeah. And I think when you're young, sometimes that's harder, but you're also still maybe trying a lot more experiences that you haven't tried before. So, we talked about theater. That was something we were always interested in. So, and we saw people start and develop relationships that are still going on today that they built through the theater. But know yourself enough to know what your interests are. Because if I wanted to date Tammy, I don't know how else to give this, and Tammy's husband, right? I'm not going to just all of a sudden be like, I love horseback ride. I've been on a horse since I was 16, and it was for like 5 minutes, and I was like, get me off of this thing, right? So I'm not going to go to somebody and be like, I love horseback riding. Yeah. And then go horseback riding with them and be completely out of my element and not feel comfortable. So know yourself enough to know where you want to build or start a relationship with someone with.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I have a friend that wavers, like whoever she's dating, suddenly she likes everything they like. Yeah. And it's no longer what she likes. And I'm always baffled by that, because I think that, well, I seem to choose opposite of myself in friends and my husband. So I really feel like a lot of the times it's a good thing, because it gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets me out of my comfort zone. I get Kevin out of his comfort zone. I mean, I had the man singing on stage. Right. That's not something he would ever have done.
But your first date was what?
So our first date was going to a concert.
I thought it was boating.
Well, it was, we met boating.
And you both enjoyed it.
We both enjoyed boating. Yes. Right. I was already in the...
And you were with other friends?
Other friends in a group setting. I actually came with a friend. A friend brought me, which is another good thing to do. A great way to meet people is, put the feelers out to your friends and be like, hey, if you know anybody that's you think would suit me. Although the guy that introduced us, I went and had lunch with him a couple months ago, and he said, I thought that you'd be great for Kevin to get him out of his hermit lifestyle because he was becoming a hermit. And you're so outgoing that I thought you would just get him going. I didn't mean for you to marry him. Whoops. And I was like, well, it turned out to be a good thing. And I thank you for it. Yeah. Yes, I am an overachiever. So, anyways, back to, we've talked about our groups and how to meet.
And I think then you go from those group settings or, out with his friends, out with your friends. Then you try a one-on-one date so that you can already have something to talk about. And it kind of takes some of those nerves away. And then there's not as many expectations that are unknown at that point. Right.
And I think you had similar as me as far as communication because you did a lot of texting. Kevin and I, we were boating like almost every Sunday we would go boating. And those were the times when we would have like 2-hour conversations and that were just very unique to the conversations we had during the week when life was a little more hectic. And I really enjoyed that because there was that you felt relaxed because you're outdoors, you're boating, you're in a boat, and you're talking freely to each other, but you're asking your dreams and what do you want? Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, 10 years, like all the things. So, although I did get ripped off a little bit because he said he was going to retire at 45.
That's never
in sinker.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. That was never. A lie he told himself.
Yeah, it was a lie he told himself, so I can't blame him for that. But anyway,
so I think another thing is that don't lie to yourself either.
Yes.
So make sure that when you're setting your expectations that they're accurate. Right? And remember, people don't change, and so you also don't change. How you were talking about, and we all know at least a handful of people like this that will completely 360 change into a different person. You date the cowboy, you're a cowboy. You listen to this music, now you listen to this music, and you just completely change your personality for that person. Those relationships, I've never seen those ones last. I don't think you've seen any of those ones last. So remember, you can't change for somebody else, nor can you expect somebody else to change. So if you start dating somebody and you're like, well, I can fix this, or he'll change because we're going to start doing these other things, or I'm going to change this of that person. One, you don't want to be changed by them. So don't expect to change somebody else. They are going to show you who they really are, and your job is to believe them, but also be honest with who you really are. Yeah. Because if you change everything about you, you're not going to be happy eventually, because eventually you're going to let all that down and be like, I actually don't like that music, and I actually don't like those kinds of movies. And if I sit around and watch one more whatever, then, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't lie to yourself. If we're going to be honest with the other person about what our expectations are for them, you have to be honest with yourself as well. And remember, and I don't know if I said this already, I don't think I can say it enough times. I'll say it 10 more times. But remember that you bring your whole self to the table, which is all of your good and all of your bad. And you're going to expect that person to like all of your bad things as well as your good things. And so we have to be forgiving of those things for somebody else also. Right. That was one thing I learned had a long period when I was single. And I remember thinking like, well, I don't want to hang out with me because I got this or that going on. Like I have the, whatever the weird things are about myself that drive me crazy. Sometimes I drive myself crazy. I hate when I chew gum. I annoy myself, like things like that. I know I do annoying things, but then at the same time, it's like, the other person is going to do something super annoying too, like chew gum really loud, and that's going to drive me crazy also. And so, we just learn to accept those things.
Right. It's how much of their things annoy you is acceptable.
Right.
And for sure, we're not all perfect. There's no perfect person, and we all have our faults. And if you think you're perfect, then you could be the problem in the date.
Yeah. Don't make any exceptions on like a person's core values.
Yes, core values are key.
Yeah. And don't make any exceptions on your own core values. After that,
everything's up for grabs, because you also grow And hopefully if you end up dating someone and you end up getting married like us, hopefully you grow together and not apart. And you do that by, I think, by learning together and having big, long discussions, having goals together, having...
And being accepting.
And being accepting. Very accepting and patient. And then also remember, not every connection means that you're going to be romantic.
Right.
You can meet somebody if you're utilizing an app and maybe they're not the person for you, but you have so many things in common. Maybe that just becomes a friend that you go and do things with and hang out with. And who knows, it might become your best friend and you might end up falling in love with them because you see this whole different side of them.
Yeah.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That statement is primarily because when you get to know someone internally, their beauty shines outwardly.
Absolutely. You fall in love with their inside.
That's right. Because you can see a pretty woman walking on the street, but you could talk to her and go, good gravy. That is the meanest person I've ever met. Okay. So, okay, had to do it. If you enjoyed, if you go and do something with someone and you enjoy the time, but maybe you don't want to go hang out with that person again, just you know that you can be friends with that person, and no time is wasted, no matter what time you've spent on a date. Yeah, I don't think.
Or again, try more than once.
Yes.
So say you go play mini golf and you kind of were okay with it, but it wasn't great. You know,
maybe he was awkward.
You weren't knocked off your feet.
Yeah.
Now next time try a different activity.
Yes. Or maybe it's not an activity. Maybe go watch a movie or whatever, but you just continue to do things, activities, or talk with each other. Go have
coffee. Just try not do the whole typical dinner date thing. Unless your expectations are the same as theirs on how that date ends. Because those ones tend to be more nerve-wracking because there's the whole, is he going to kiss me when the date is over? Is he going to invite me to come home? Is he going to invite me inside? And if you want to avoid all of that, it's a lot easier to have, let's meet for brunch. Let's meet for coffee. Let's meet for something else.
Even though, I think that that expectation is exciting. Like, is he going to kiss me? Like, it's nerve-wracking and it's exciting all in the same.
I think for me, that's exciting on like the third date.
Yeah.
It's not for the first date.
No, not for the first date. But I'm just saying that.
I don't know you well enough
kiss,
for this.
Yeah, don't kiss. You could kiss me on the cheek or kiss my hand, but that's all that you're going to do on the first date, buddy. Unless you're my husband. So first dates.
Yeah.
And first dates are introductions, not life decisions.
Absolutely.
So, and same with even the multiple date things. Say that you go and do multiple things. You do group dates and you go several things and you continually hanging out with this one person. That doesn't mean that's your forever person, nor does it have to be. You do need to have conversation in case that person thinks you're their forever person. You might want to make sure it's clear that, at that point, you're enjoying the friendship. We said that. So less judgment, more curiosity, asking questions, being open to them and accepting of whatever their little faults are.
And I think my final advice would be, if you're young or not young, but you're single for whatever reason, don't let the focus be on when am I going to find the next date? How am I finding the next date? When am I going to go out with somebody? Yeah. The focus should be, get out there. Do anything. Go to open mic night one night and watch people sing or do comedy. Go to karaoke night. Go to a trivia night somewhere. Go to a singles event if they're having them. If you really want to get out of your shell, go to a singles event. But don't sit around and wait for something to happen. Live your life. Go make some pottery somewhere. Go blow glass somewhere. Go do some great event. Because while you're out exploring yourself and learning what you love, you could very well run into that person enjoying the same things that you're enjoying. But there's no reason to sit around and wait for somebody else to make you happy. Get out there and make yourself happy. Yeah. And then you're going to attract happy people to you.
I love that. That's a great way to close. So thank you for joining us and stay
empowered.